reminder that it's Italy in the white, it's Les Bleus in the blue, it's stolen away early, it's a huge chance! It's Bradley Barcola with a stunner!
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic. This is where Ralph dresses up as a man from space.
What do you mean you've seen this? It's brand new.
We've seen that one before. Here on the Calcio Guys, Gianni, Adriano, I'm Nicholas, and we've also seen this guest before, Daniel Lucci from All Juve Cast. How are you guys doing?
Ciao, gentlemen.
Doing good. We're doing good. After these results, we're doing good. Happy to have Lucci back on the pod.
Thanks for having me.
It was hard not to quote the Back to the Future line at the end of that. I thankfully I had my mic muted, so else you would have heard me say, "What do you mean you've seen it before? It's brand new."
That's what it feels like watching Italy, or having watched Italy Friday, letting a goal 13 seconds into that game. It feels like a flashback to that Euro game against Albania. I think it was 20 seconds in that one. That was first game of the Euros. This is the first game of the Nations League. And just like in that game against Albania, Italy comes back and wins a surprise one against France. You know, we talked about on the podcast last week, guys. None of us thought they'd do it, but 3-1 against France. I mean, we got to start with Lucci, right? Give us, first of all, are you shocked? Were you shocked about that win at all? And just give us your thoughts about the play, because it already looks like somewhat of a new Italy.
Yeah, definitely shocked. I thought at best case scenario they'd somehow pull out a draw, but somehow they put in 3 past France. I don't think anyone saw that coming. They definitely looked a lot better than what we saw in the Euros. I want to know like where that Frattesi was during the summer, because that guy was nowhere near the way he's been playing recently. But hey, man, back-to-back wins. I guess we'll take it, right? Can't complain. Some new faces. It's all good. So far.
I think that's the key word, so far. I think it's still a wait and see, but listen, guys, I think we're all hyped as Italian Azzurri fans. I think it's a time to be excited. I don't think, like I said, we spoke last week on the pod, I said 4 points out of a possible 6 is the ideal. I didn't think they would get it. I thought they were going to get just a win today, to be honest with you. I thought they would end up losing against France, but Spalletti, I think really one thing, again, we spoke about last week is, can Spalletti turn the page and finally put the Euro aside and now start fresh with this quote unquote new Italy? Again, like Lucci said, so far, I think it's been working. Lucci, I guess a quick question for you before we continue on our thoughts. Are you like, what do you make of the, his approach so far, his system? It seems to be that he's kind of being less stubborn and being, he came from Napoli as a coach, being a club manager is different between an international manager. Less time to prepare with these players. So he set his eyes on this 3-5-2 or this variation of that.
Yeah.
And it seems to be working. It seems like they want to play some offensive culture. What are your thoughts on the formation and just maybe his approach post Euro?
It looks like he actually did some research, after that Euro, because he got embarrassed a few times, him and the team. Let's not just blame him, but looks like he finally, went back, took some players into consideration, got rid of the ones he had to, and made the right call so far. I like how he's, trying to include a lot of the youth. I know a few guys weren't available in the summer. I understand that. But Ricci's looked really good from what I've seen. And I think if Spalletti can keep this, rejuvenation and, keep everyone, tactically, on board and in going in the right direction, I think Italy can, finally turn some heads. But it's still early. I don't want to get my hopes up just yet, but, promising so far.
I feel like as if it's like similar to what Lippi had to go through, like maybe, mind you, in scenario in 2010, he had to get burnt, and him getting burnt kind of costed him his future with the Azzurri. But do you think that Spalletti probably took a look at, I don't say he took at that example specifically, but you think maybe he looked at situations in the past of coaches not willing to be malleable, and you think maybe he probably learned from there?
I think he had to, right? He definitely got some things wrong in the summer. I think we all saw that. And, he did his research, and I think now he has an actual idea of what he wants to do and what he wants to implement before in those 3-4 games during the Euros, I think it was a different starting 11 every game. It was a different formation pretty much every game. So it looks like he wants to stick to this, and hopefully he does. And, you get into the same patterns, no matter what the players are coming in and out, you get the same patterns, and everyone knows, kind of where to be and what to do. So if it works, it works. Just stick to it, right?
Yeah, with the formation, that's a good point, because you think back to the Euros, he was really stuck on the 4-3-3. He played that obviously against, I think he played that against Albania, and then he played that against Spain, and then he comes out versus Croatia, switches it to a 3-5-2, gets the result, then says, you know what, this worked. Okay, I know we needed that Zaccagni goal, but it worked. And then went back to the 4-3-3 versus Switzerland and loses 2-0. And then, so it, like you said, it seems like he did his research, come back out in these games, 3-5-2 for each of them. And you know what I like is that there wasn't your typical number 9. Obviously, that almost wasn't by choice with Scamacca being hurt. And I know Keane played today, but for me, he's obviously a different player than Scamacca. But I think that allowed Italy to be a bit more fluid and not have that one central point where it's like, okay, we got to get the guy this ball. And it allowed Italy to pass around the ball. I don't know if you agree with that, Lucci. I don't know if you think the 3-5-2 is what Italy should stick with moving forward, or if you think there's another formation.
Yeah, it's tough to say otherwise, even though it's not my favorite formation. We just lack wingers, good wingers, but we do have a lot of decent midfield. That's where our depth is, honestly, right now. That and center back, like left-footed center backs. I've never seen so many. So it seems to work. It seems to fit the players that, our best players that we have. I still want to see more, we can't really, Israel, it's a test, but it's not at the same time, France, of course, but even them, they've been struggling lately. So if it works and we're going to continue this way, then, actually make it, stick to it. And to your point, Nick, I don't think Keane is your guy going forward. He might be an option off the bench. I do like Retegui, though. He looked really good in the way he was, moving against France and moving around, getting open. The pass to Fertesi for the goal was great. You won't see that. You won't see that as much from Scamacca. So they offer different things, and I like that.
Yeah, no, I think. Listen, we hadn't beat France in Paris in 7 years? I think it was, guys, since '54. So
they hadn't beat France, period, since Euro 2008.
Yeah. There you go.
And it was the first competitive match. There have been 3 friendlies since.
Yeah.
And I think it was 2012, 2016, 2018, and Italy lost all 3. So guys,
it shows. It means something. Like this win. Like, listen, we've always had a rivalry with the French. There's no denying that. It's no secret. To do it in their own backyard, and hadn't done it in 7 years, and has had struggles in beating them in other matches along the way. I think it means something. Listen, this is a team that, even if they struggle, their struggle is still far from ours currently, unfortunately, right? So this is a team that's won a World Cup in recent succession. They've made a World Cup final in the recent past. So it's a real, that one for me was the real test. Obviously, this group, we are going into it, we saw that it was going to be tough, with France and Belgium, but listen, we got the early test out of the way done on the road. Spalletti's first road win with this Azzurri team. So I think, I don't know, it just, for me, it was a big surprise. And like Lucci said, I'm glad that so far he's sticking to his idea. And I think the bigger picture to that is that, the team and the group is buying into that, because you can have whatever idea you want and whatever system you want to put in place, but if you don't get your guys to buy into that and to really execute that idea that you have in your head and execute it on the pitch, you're not going to go anywhere. So far, so good. I think their next, obviously, international break is coming up in October, so not too far away. But because you mentioned Lucci, and that's been a big player in the Calcio social media world these last couple of days, but. Besides him, anybody else that's impressed you in this formation? You mentioned Retegui. Anybody else comes to mind?
I did like Retegui. again, DeMarco was another one. He had the good 2 games, but where was he in the summer? He was causing us goals more than helping us score them. So, like, if these guys, I don't know, maybe it's the jitters of the big international stage. I don't know, but he looked better. Cambiasso, I thought, looked good. Buongiorno looked good today, from what I saw.
Buongiorno.
Yeah. I'm still not a big Raspadori guy, but he plays his role well for a small guy. Like, he knows where to be and get in those right positions, make the right pass. So if he's actually going to be a starter there, I don't know what their plan is between him, Chiesa, and whoever else they want to try in that secondary striker role. But the defense looks good. The midfield, you got lots of options, which is good. Having Tonali back is massive. That guy's a great player.
Absolutely.
That definitely helps. But so far, it was impressive from a few guys. So hopefully we can keep that going.
I think, honestly, what you mentioned about the DiMarco thing, like where was he during the summer? It's more like they're playing in positions that they're actually used to playing in. He's playing to their strengths finally, instead of forcing them to fit into his, let's say, his puzzle. He's using them as the pieces that they are and fit in a formation that kind of works for them. And speaking of, like, what do you get, like the Italy versus France game? I think probably one of the rare times I've seen a 3-5-1-1 in my life, probably. Like, I want to throw it back to all you guys. Like, what do you think of that, actually? Like, obviously it worked out, you get a 3-1 win out of it, but like, this is not something we're used to seeing. I don't know what you guys think about it. I mean,
I think it was Pellegrini that started in that match, in that one, if
with
you will.
Retegui,
Yeah, with Retegui. Lucci, I'll let you go first. We'll give our
I mean,
thoughts
unfortunately, me and Nick saw it a little bit with Juve last year, and it obviously didn't work too well for us for most of the season. But I guess it just depends on the players you have at your disposal, right? If some players are used to that, like the Inter players are used to playing a 3-5-2 or 3-5-1-1, whatever you want to call it. So they're pretty comfortable with that system, and like we saw today and on Friday, they're comfortable to playing those similar positions. Maybe, like you said, Johnny, DeMarco's not comfortable playing a left back, and he looked out of position against in the Euros, but he looked a lot better these last 2 games. So maybe it does make a huge difference, and hopefully everyone else doesn't have any other issues when they get slotted in it here and there. So far, so good. I don't want to see it for Juve, though. It's not really my favorite thing going forward. So,
Nick, you?
No, like I said, I think it works. Maybe part of me would, maybe prefer like a typical 3-5-2, or maybe a player like Raspadori, or even even Retegui could kind of play off a number 9 because they're a bit more mobile. But if you got a guy like Pellegrini, and if you're going to play him more in an attacking role versus more of a center midfield, where for me, I think he struggles a bit more in a holding midfield position, and we kind of saw that at the Euros. So, like I said before, I think for me, this is, as long as they're playing fluid and they understand, and you're playing players in their positions, like you guys just said, I think that goes well. And you know what, that I'm going to jump right in, Lucci, and that brings us. I want to bring up Chiesa. I know he's not a Juve player anymore, and he's Liverpool's problem. And obviously, he didn't play with the Azzurri this time around because he wasn't up to game speed and all that. But if they're going to play a 3-5-2 like this, where does he fit in? Because that was the exact issue with Juve, with the 3-5-2 with Juve that Monta wants to play. So where does he fit in this Azzurri team?
The only way he plays if he takes that secondary, that second striker role, whether it's from Raspadori or Pellegrini. So he didn't look that great. I don't know. I don't know if it's because he's not comfortable playing that position. Just like we said, Johnny, you have certain Inter players or other players comfortable in that position. Maybe for him, he's not comfortable in that position, so he misses out, or he finds himself on the bench. He didn't look very good with Juve in that spot. Maybe he's going to have to learn to adapt, I guess, if he wants to continue playing with the Azzurri or not. If not, he might be in a little bit of trouble, but we'll see.
No, I think in terms of the formation thing, and listen, you go on the score, you go on whatever, on Gazzetta, whatever, and you see 3-5-1-1. But like Nick said, and like we've kind of all noticed, that just the formation that they write down, it is very fluid. So you might say 3-5-1-1, but it is that 3-5-2. It can go into that 3-4-2-1. It really is very fluid, especially how I saw like our attackers really come back, and build up with the play, and go forward as a unit. So I think that's why I say 3-5-2 and its variations, because Spalletti has shown that, if it's going to be a player like Pellegrini in that segunda punta type of role, or a guy like Chiesa or what have you, I think they don't really have to only stick to that. And I think he said it in his press conferences. So if it's not a 3-5-2/3-5-1-1, it could be that 3-4-2-1. You take out a midfielder and you put, a Chiesa and a Pellegrini behind the striker. Like there are other options, I think, to this. And we've discussed it on the pod before, and it's always been an idea, but hopefully we kind of see that come to fruition, with Spalletti, because in the 3-5-2, in just that form, I don't, and we've said it on the show before, and Lucci, you watch Juve, week in and week out, unfortunately without Chiesa now, but in just a 3-5-2 in that raw form, like Chiesa at on top with another striker, it didn't work for Juve. Mm-hmm. Would it work for the Azzurri? Again, I don't know. I personally don't think it goes back to saying, why is DiMarco playing left back when he's really a left wing back, and that's his position. He can get up and go up and down, down the pitch. So I don't see it working. But if you get him behind the striker with somebody else and have kind of a focal point to an extent of a Retegui, a Keane, a Scamacca, whoever you want, I think it could work, and that's kind of the only way I would see it fitting, because we know he might come up and go forward and come back and defend, but his capability, his biggest danger, as you know, Lucci, is going forward and creating and trying to attack and score. So one thing I wanted to ask, because it seems like Spalletti's goal scorer is Fratesi. He has 6 goals, I think, with the national team under Spalletti. Is that a worrisome thing for you, or is that Lucci, or is that something that, it's one guy that's finding his form under a guy like Spalletti? Because we still need to find goals from our attackers.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, it's a great thing to have. Depth scoring is always a good thing to have, but you still need your strikers to score. And that's where I think we might be in a little bit of trouble, because we can't. When's the last time we had a consistent number 9 scoring goals? I can't remember one. We're talking early 2000s, mid 2000s, like.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
Early 10s, maybe.
Early 10s, yeah, exactly. Like Immobile was, before we can talk about his ups and downs with the Azzurri and not being consistent. Scamacca, we have yet to see really what he's been able to do. He's only shown glimpses when he was at Atalanta. Same with Retegui now. So hopefully someone steps up and takes the starting position and actually starts scoring goals. Like, you like seeing Retegui do the other things and get assists to Fratesi and things like that, but you also want your number 9s to score, no doubt. So depending if it continues to go this route, yeah, I'm sure it'd be a bit of a concern for Spalletti. I know it would be for me, just because, when you're playing when you're playing Spain and you're playing, other teams, it's going to be hard for these midfielders to get solely involved in scoring goals when they have other duties to look, players to look after. So you need your strikers to score. That's kind of what they're there for, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we got a bit of that this game against Israel, right? We had Keane scoring that goal, at least. Like, he was playing up front. But you're completely correct on the fact that we need to we need to start finding somebody who's going to do it consistently, because we've had players that either do good things but nothing comes out of it, like Retegui, versus players that we try. They're supposed to be the prototypical number 9 and they don't do anything, aka Scamacca. Would you, like, that's the thing though, like right now it seems like he's found the formation that kind of works, right? But we need to find, like, how would you activate those strikers in this kind of formation though? It's like it's kind of tough. I think it's one of those things where it's like you have to get everybody involved in a way. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing right now that what they have so far. Like I said, so far things seem to be working. But you're correct in the sense that these strikers are meant to be on the pitch to score those goals. That's their role, that's their job. And if they're not doing that role, how much secondary scoring can you rely on?
Exactly.
How sustainable can it be even?
Exactly. stiffer competition, that secondary scoring might not be there, right? Exactly. So the only good thing I will say though, Johnny, is that both Retegui and even though Scamacca's hurt, they're both playing with Atalanta. So, and they play a similar type of system or similar type of counter, 3-5 or 3-4-2-1 or whatever Atalanta plays. So it's maybe you'll get a little familiarity with that, and someone will slot in and take the spot. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. It's tough. I don't see, just because I've seen so much of Keane, I don't see him being a starter. Maybe unless he blows my mind or Spalletti's mind too. Who knows? He's still young. He's maybe has a resurgence with Fiorentina, but only time will tell.
Today's game against Israel, I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch. If you would have told me 2-1 win versus Israel beforehand, I would have said, what's the problem? What is this? Like, they scored in 90th minute win or something. But you know what? I watched the game. They actually played well. I don't think the score line reflects what happened on the field. Obviously, Israel scored late to make it 2-1, but Italy just dominated throughout. We talked about Frattesi scored and Keane scored. Tonali did score a goal late. It was ruled offside. If you look back on the replay, very marginally offside. But I think overall it was a good game. I think it was a game that lacked energy. You could tell that not a lot of people in the stands. This was a game played in Hungary. The Azzurri probably tired. They had to travel from Florence to Paris, back to Florence, then to Budapest. And you kind of saw that in the first half. Obviously, Frattesi scored late in the first half, 38th minute, and then Keane in the 62nd. So, at the end, everything worked out for Italy. I don't know if any of you guys have any thoughts on the game.
It's definitely not as exciting as the game on Friday. I saw most of it. I missed about the last 10 minutes or so, but again, Ricci, like I said earlier, Ricci looked good. There's a couple guys that are, fighting for a starting spot. And, if he continues to play like that, he kind of deserves it. The atmosphere was kind of rainy. No one looked like people didn't want to, like the players themselves didn't want to be there. So, you'll take the 3 points and kind of just wrap it up and everyone goes home. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I saw. I mean, I didn't catch the early beginning of the game. I caught more after that. But listen, I think after we got such a high on the France game, it was only normal that level was going to kind of come back down, because it's so hard to keep your. We were kind of joking beforehand. It's going to be another snooze fest, but against a lesser opponent. But sometimes it's hard to, you kind of get trapped in that groove, because you're on such a high with a tough opponent like France, and then you come and play Israel again. No disrespect, but it's just a lesser competition. It's a lesser opponent, to what it is. So was I expecting a bit of a less of an atmosphere? Yeah, maybe a bit. Would I have liked to see a bit more goals? Sure, but again, we hadn't scored. Again, I don't remember. I saw the stat now on Twitter, but I don't remember since when. But we scored 5 goals in 2 matches. It seems like it takes Italy 7 games to score 5 goals. So it's like, just seeing some goals come, even if it's not our number 9, if it's not our attacking players. I think it's still something to bounce off of. I think the game today was good. I think they didn't. My worry was that they were going to play down to Israel. It being a boring game, they would get caught on a counter and probably maybe tie the game. I would want to obviously the win, but I thought it was going to be something scrappy like that. I think they took care of their business, early. Spalletti making some changes and quite a few changes, giving Brescianini two appearances in both games, his first look-ins with this national team at the senior level. So I still like the experimenting with these young players and just players that haven't gone into the system yet. So I don't know. For me, even though he made about 6 changes, I still think at the core, the team was relatively the same, because I think the players that he did interchange kind of like would still work. A Cambiaso out, a Bellanova in. more or less the same player on that right flank. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I saw the game. Johnny, I don't know if you mentioned saw anything else.
Sadly, no. I was substituting today, so I didn't have a chance to see much of the game. And I tried looking for highlights, but this is just
They're
a
not
fun
out.
little segue of the conversation. Don't you hate it when you try to look for highlights online and these people put these freaking replays from like a FIFA game or Pro Evolution Soccer game? And you're like, what the fuck am I looking at? Like,
but the
what's
thumbnail
the point
is like
of
so
this?
real.
No, it's not even that. It's like because like what like if you hover over it, like so you search on Google, right?
True.
You search it on Google, you hover your mouse over like the video on YouTube link, and it looks like there's images and highlights from the game itself. I'm like, oh, great, fantastic. And I'm not saying like the ones that look like, oh, you could, it's so good, like, but it's from the game. Like, no, like it's actual like images of like Fratesi and stuff and Tonali, like up close and stuff moving around. And it's not like the video game, like they're wearing the proper jerseys and everything. So I'm like, oh, great. I know they wear their whites and everything. So I click it, and all of a sudden it's like, you see like 10, 15 seconds of like this random ass, like, oh, click subscribe, join this website. And next thing you know, it's like, welcome everybody to today's match between Italy and Israel. Like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah.
I want highlights. I need to know what's going on with the game. So sadly, just to land the plane, I did not get a chance to even look at highlights, so I'm going by. Did you watch
the FIFA game at least, or not even?
Not even.
How was that, Danny? Tell us about it.
The guy who played the game was a scrub anyway, so
could have beat him. Should have beat him.
Yeah.
But one thing I kind of want to like pass around, like, and I know Lucci kind of mentioned some names, but maybe like who would be your MVP out of these two match days if you were to give it to one player? We can kind of go around, but I'll let Lucci go first. You have to choose.
That's a good question, actually. I mean, DeMarco was solid. He deserves a shout. It'd have to be for me, probably for Tesi, though. Just scoring the crucial goals. He was involved in a lot. I think he even picked up an assist, maybe in the first game, if I'm not mistaken. So just based on numbers, I guess he deserves it. So he'll get my vote.
Nick, Ja, you guys? You have to choose.
Honestly, Tonali was great.
Yeah, it's a good shout,
I think Tonali, he changes the midfield. This is, we were missing it, obviously, at the Euros. But I think also the way that Spalletti uses his players was different at the Euros. I know we just talked about that. But even a guy like Fratesi, he's not someone who's a starter with Inter, and he comes in and he's a fantastic player with Italy. It means Spalletti's using him right. And to have Tonali there. And, this is a team that we didn't see Barella. And now we have Ricci and, Locatelli's kind of on the outside looking in. But that's a good problem to have right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully everyone stays healthy moving forward. But, suddenly I'm excited about the midfield again. And it's good to see Tonali back.
Their midfield might be the best part of the team, honestly. Yeah. Which is a good thing to have, yeah.
Yeah, one thing I'd say to Tonali, don't bet again. Don't be an idiot again. Hopefully he learned his lesson.
Let's hope so.
Ja, you, before I give mine?
My MVP has to be Spalletti for actually looking at other options and actually considering fresh faces to try out. Destiny Udogie finally getting a call up and stuff, Mancini was looking into him. We thought he showed some potential when he first came up. I think it was like 2 years ago. 3 years? No, it was
last year.
Last year?
2 years ago.
Probably
Sorry. 2020. And he looked promising. So it's nice that you have a plethora of options, and it's now creating the idea of maybe players going elsewhere might actually benefit the Italian team rather than sticking just locally in the Serie A. Because some of these players that he called up, are playing in different leagues and you could see the quality change in terms of how they're playing on the pitch. Now, I'm not saying Serie A is worse. It's just more there was always it felt like as if there was this taboo of if this player leaves Serie A, you no longer look at him, you no longer consider him for the national team, unless it was an exception like Verratti, where Verratti just it was a no-brainer at that point because it was pure talent, and Donnarumma because what else are you going to put in? Alex Meret, no thank you. Di Gregorio at this point, I take Di Gregorio in a heartbeat. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Over Meret. But what I'm trying to say though is that he actually he wasn't afraid to think outside the box. both literally and figuratively, and try out different players to see what fresh faces. It was no longer a merit-based system. It was more like, okay, are you in form? Yes, you're called up. No, I'm sorry. Even if you've done stuff for us in the past, and I'm saying this in the sense of like Jorginho, for example, like he went with a merit-based system with Jorginho in the Euros, and Jorginho was a very mid to below average player during the Euros this year. 100%. He wasn't even a crucial midfielder as he was in games in the past. The guy's not old either. It's just, I don't know what, he's just super regressed. You know what I'm saying? It's just, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's just a small example in terms of like players that, you think normally just because of their name, they should be on the team. No, it's more about, we don't care about the name. We just care about your nationality and if you're in form or not to play for the team. And I think that's what Spalletti did right. And that's why he gets MVP in my eye.